Saturday, June 20th, 2026, and we've got a, a poem more appropriate maybe for around Christmas time. Number 5,104, A Hot Shave and a Frozen Candy Cane. Another silly one, weird one. Does anyone know the real story of Old St. Nick? No? Well, I just happen to know someone who knows someone who is pretty good friends with Prancer. Prancer, the famous reindeer. And it turns out that our dear Santa, says Prancer, only lived to the ripe old age of 187. Yep, the story goes that after decades of dealing with that itchy, scratchy, rash-inducing beard, jolly and warm-hearted as he from whom it billowed must have been, Mrs. Claus had had enough of it one year and asked Nick if he'd be so kind as to get rid of that long and scraggly beard. And so one early winter, Santa reluctantly trekked over to the only barber shop on the North Pole and nervously asked not just for a trim, nope, but he wanted a warm shave and an above-the-shoulders haircut. Well, from here the story gets a bit sketchy. Some claim that the one local barber never got much business and therefore hadn't had much practice. Others go further, saying it was not so innocent at all, claiming the barber was a disgruntled elf who for decades had worked a conveyor belt in the world-famous toy factory. To cut to the quick, so to speak, the coroner's report, and yes, while there aren't many deaths in the North Pole, there is a lone coroner as well, reads quite simply, cause of death, freak shaving accident. The big man bled to death on a barber's chair, at least according to the coroner. But I happen to know that Mrs. Claus had a thing for a certain monstrosity of a snowman. And you know who, for the past several centuries now, has driven that sleigh, directing those famous reindeer and magically dipping himself, without melting somehow, into chimneys worldwide to deliver all of those annual gifts and a modicum of coal chunks to all the boys and girls? You guessed it, the abominable snowman himself. And I'm also told on authority that the old lady wore white, so bright, to her dead husband's funeral that the elves could barely make her out, what with the swirling snow and ice. And that, to this very day, she has a certain light-hearted swagger for a woman of her age. Oh, she still smells of cinnamon, sure, but while before the death of her long-espoused Christmas hero, she'd been a bitter woman with a salty tongue who'd been in trouble more than a few times for harassing those factory elves. Nowadays, word has it, she manages never to publicly loosen the overly perky grin that runs between those rosy circles upon her jowls, and she's got a light-hearted pep in her step that many call a swagger, and that more than just a few citizens of the North Pole are extra cautious when she's in their vicinity. Indeed, no small number of them have ever believed that it was a freak shaving incident after all that brought about the demise of Santa Claus. And if you think this just conspiracy, then when was the last time you've heard of a glass of milk being emptied overnight on Christmas Eve? The snow monster is allergic. Oh, he eats the cookies, but he never takes a sip, even just to down an extra dry ginger snap. And if you look at any of the letters he writes to the hundreds of thousands of kids, and a bunch of their parents as well, given that he answers every single piece of mail that comes his way, just like the jolly old man did, you will find the ink smudged almost to illegibility, as it were, written by a sobbing lover, as if it were written by a sobbing lover or a distraught mother. Anyway, so now you know, but do not tell a soul who you heard it from, okay?